What if the place you felt safest turned into a nightmare? Tonight, I'll share 5 terrifying home alone stories that will leave you questioning every sound and shadow you encounter when no one else is around. These aren't just tales, they're warnings, so sit back, but don't get too comfortable. It was supposed to be a relaxing Friday night for Lily. Her parents had left for a weekend getaway, and she planned on binge watching her favorite horror movies. With the house completely silent, every noise felt amplified, but Lily shrugged it off as nothing more than the creaks of an old house. About an hour into her movie marathon, she heard its soft footsteps above her. Her heart skipped a beat, but she reasoned with herself, it's just the house settling, right? The footsteps grew louder, heading down the hallway above her. Fear took over as she grabbed her phone, ready to call her parents. But before she could, the door to her room upstairs creaked open. Lily paused the movie and listened, her pulse racing. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the door swung open, slamming against the wall. Panicked, Lily ran upstairs to check every corner of the house, but no one was there. Just as she was about to calm down, her phone buzzed. A message appeared on the screen from an unknown number, "I'm already inside." The faint glow of a gaming console lights up the living room. Tom was never one to believe in ghost stories, and living in the middle of nowhere made the concept of intruders seem absurd. His parents had gone out for the evening, leaving him home alone. He immersed himself in video games, oblivious to the time ticking away. At first, Tom ignored the growls, thinking his dog had spotted an animal outside. But when he glanced toward the window, his heart sank. There, silhouetted against the snow, was a dark figure standing just outside, unmoving. Panic set in as Tom leaped off the couch, locking all the doors and windows. He peeked through the blinds again, but the figure had vanished. Relief washed over him until his dog started growling again. This time, the shadow appeared at a different window, closer, almost as if it was looking for a way inside. Terrified, Tom called his parents, but before they could answer, a loud banging echoed through the house. The front door shook violently, but when Tom ran to check, there was nothing outside, just the unsettling imprint of a hand on the frosted window pane. Samantha had always hated being home alone. She would hear things, soft whispers, footsteps in the hallway, but she'd convinced herself it was all in her head. That night, though, something felt different. She woke up around 2 a.m. to the unmistakable sound of creaking floorboards just outside her room. At first, she stayed still, hoping the sounds would stop. But they didn't. The creaks grew louder, more deliberate, as if someone was pacing up and down the hallway. Summoning her courage, she whispered, "Hello." But there was no response, just more knocking, persistent and unrelenting. When she finally gathered enough strength to open the door, the hallway was empty. Yet, in the silence of the house, she swore she heard the faint sound of someone laughing. The faint sound of static buzzes through the air. Jake was used to prank calls. It was easy to ignore them until that night. His parents had left for a trip, and the house was eerily quiet. Just as Jake was about to drift off to sleep, his phone rang. It was an unknown number, but curiosity got the better of him. At first, there was only static. Jake hung up, thinking it was a bad connection, but a few minutes later, the phone rang again. This time, he heard something, whispers faintly cutting through the static, like someone speaking just out of range. Jake's heart pounded as he strained to hear the words. He hung up, but the calls kept coming. Each time, the static grew louder, more sinister, until finally, a voice broke through, "I'm closer than you think." Terrified, Jake silenced his phone, but when he checked his messages, a text appeared from the same number, "Look outside." Mia had always felt uneasy about the basement. It was dark, cold, and had a door that never quite stayed closed. Her parents constantly joked that it was haunted, but Mia didn't laugh. That night, While home alone, she heard the door creak open on its own again. The basement light flickered as she peeked inside, but nothing seemed out of place. Still, the uneasy feeling gnawed at her. She closed the door, but within minutes, it swung open again. This time, she swore she saw something at the bottom of the stairs, a dark figure, staring back up at her. Mia slammed the door shut and locked it, but the sound of footsteps echoed from the basement. Slowly, methodically, they climbed the stairs, stopping just behind the door. Holding her breath, Mia waited for the inevitable knock, but it never came. The house fell silent again, but she never dared to open that door. Being home alone might seem peaceful, but when the night grows quiet, and every sound is amplified, it's easy to feel like you're not really alone. These stories remind us that sometimes, the danger isn't just in our heads, it's waiting just outside the door. Stay safe, and never ignore those creaking footsteps again.